What's up, guys? Welcome back to the UFC arena, and this is the card that we have all been waiting for. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2, UFC 257. Now, I am hyped for this card. This card is what I've been waiting for. I love Conor McGregor. I love to see him fight. He's never in a boring fight. I love Dustin Poirier. I love to see him fight. He's never in a boring fight. So this main event will deliver. Regardless of who wins, it will deliver. But let's look at the card itself. There's a few fights that I want to talk about. This card isn't as stacked as some of the previous cards, but that's actually pretty normal for a Conor McGregor card. The UFC tends to rely on McGregor a lot to sell pay-per-views, so they know that once McGregor's name is on the card, they don't really need to stack the card. People are going to buy the card regardless. So this time was no different. So let's get into it. I would like to start at the prelims. I'm not going to talk about every single fight, but there are two fights on the prelims that stand out to me. So we have Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Marcin Prachinio. And this is an interesting fight to me because Khalil Roundtree Jr. is a very aggressive, very powerful striker. I followed him on the Ultimate Fighter and he did well, but he has a big hole in his game, which is his ground game. He is pretty vicious on the feet, pretty powerful on the feet, but when it comes to the wrestling aspect, that's where he tends to lose. However, he had a knockout loss to Johnny Walker in 2018. Right, Johnny Walker knocked him out with an elbow. Then he disappeared for some time. He was in Thailand training for quite some time. No one heard of him for a while. Then he came back in April against Eric Anders, and this man looked like a completely different fighter. This man adopted the Thai style fully, and he was looking like a vicious Thai fighter. If you know Street Fighter, you know Sagat from Street Fighter. This man come back looking like Sagat. This man had the elbows, the knees, he was fast, he had vicious leg kicks. If you haven't seen that fight, I recommend you check it out. Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Eric Anders. This man looked like a beast in that fight. So from then, I've been looking at him, checking to see what he's gonna do. In his last fight, however, he lost. Why? Because of the takedown. He did not have good takedown defense. He fought against Ion Cutelaba. Cutelaba took him down and ground and pounded him out, and he lost. So his last fight has been over a year ago. Let's see if there's an evolved version of him once again, because on the feet this man is a problem. He actually has a knockout win over Gokhan Saki, and Gokhan Saki came over with a lot of striking credentials and he was able to knock out Gokhan Saki. So this man's striking is no joke. However, wrestling might be an issue. His opponent, Marcin, actually don't have much to say about him. He's having a rough time right now. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He has fought 3 times since 28 and he got finished in all 3 fights. So I don't think this fight is going to be any different. If Khalil could come out and be as powerful and look as good as he can look, let's put it like this: if Khalil fights to his potential, he should definitely win this fight in devastating fashion. So I'll definitely be looking at this fight. Okay, so moving on to the next fight on the prelims that I have my eye on, Arman Tsarukyan versus Nasrat Haparas. Now these two guys are young prospects. They both got into the UFC I think when they were like 22 or 23 years old. Arman was 22 years old and his first fight was against Islam Makhachev. And if you know anything about Islam Makhachev, you know that that is a tough debut to have. And this man did really well. There were a lot of wrestling exchanges, and we know that Makhachev, that's his bread and butter, right? Makhachev is from the same camp as Khabib, right? He's close, very close to Khabib. He trains with Khabib all the time, and he's just as dominant. Well, not just as dominant, but very dominant on the ground, just like Khabib is. And he was not able to dominate Arman on the ground. This fella is young, he's strong, he's ripped out of his mind, he has good conditioning, and I definitely have my eye on him. And the thing is, he was able to go toe to toe with Islam in wrestling, but he also has really good striking, right? He has excellent movement. He's not a stationary fighter. He's always on his bicycle, right? So he's hard to hit. He darts in and out. He has excellent movement. He has good kicks. He's a complete fighter and a good example of what this younger generation is coming with, because he doesn't seem like one of those fighters where he grew up with just karate and that's all he did, or he grew up with just wrestling and that's all he did. No, he is a MMA fighter, and he seemed like he grew up doing MMA, practicing all disciplines, and it shows in his game. And the guy he's fighting, right, Nasrat Haparas, let's just call him Kelvin Gastelum Jr. because this man fights just like Kelvin Gastelum. He looks just like Kelvin Gastelum, and he has fast hands just like Kelvin Gastelum. So he's also dangerous. He had a tough outing against Judoba, who's another prospect in this division. The lightweight division is just different. The amount of prospects, the amount of talent that they have in this division is just different. And these two guys I definitely have my eye on. In this fight, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan because I think he has a more well-rounded game. I don't see where Haparas hasn't beat. Haparas might be a little faster than him, but I think Arman controls range and distance better in his fights, and I don't think that Haparas wants to wrestle with him. So I think that overall Arman hasn't beat, so I'm going to go with Arman in this fight. It's a competitive fight, but I'll say he wins a decision. Alright, so now we're getting on to the main card. The first fight I'd like to look at is Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. And this is a fight, ladies and gentlemen. These are two young prospects in the strawweight division. They both have very good records. Marina is 12-1-2 and Amanda Ribas is 10-1. Those are really good records, especially for female fighters. A lot of female fighters, they have like 8-4 or 6-5, but this younger generation that coming up here, they have some really good records, and these two are definitely fighters to look out for. Marina Rodriguez is a Muay Thai fighter. She's kind of like the second coming of Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and she's long, she's rangy, she has good striking. However, she doesn't have the same level of takedown defense that Johanna has, but she's no slouch on the ground. She has vicious elbows. She fights everywhere the fight goes. If you take her down, she's going to batter you with elbows. If you're on the feet, she's going to attack you with elbows, with strikes, knees. So she's a well-rounded fighter, and she keeps fighting from start to finish. Amanda Ribas is a young prospect that the UFC has their eye on and the UFC is behind, and she's known for her grappling. She has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but she also has really good striking, good technical striking as well, and she's well-rounded. She has a win over Mackenzie Dern. That fight took place primarily on the feet, and she was piecing up Mackenzie Dern, and she's an impressive prospect. So this is a close fight because both of them are impressive. So this fight could really go either way. I would say 50-50. But I would give the slight edge to Amanda Ribas because I think she's more dangerous on the ground. So I would say give her a 55% chance of winning this one. But this is a very close fight, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Alright, so there are some other good fights on the card. We have Andrew Sanchez versus Mahmoud Muradov, and we also have Jessica Ai versus Joanne Calderwood. But I'm not going to spend time on those fights. I want to get straight to the co-main event. Right, we have Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. And this fight is one that I'm really looking forward to for several reasons, right? Of course, it's Chandler's big debut in the UFC. It's a big deal to see how he's gonna look, how he's gonna perform in his first fight. But Dan Hooker is also one of my favorite fighters. I just love how he fights. He comes to fight every single time, and he has great striking. So this actually, I think, is one of the tougher matchups for Michael Chandler in his first fight, because Dan Hooker is a great anti-wrestler. A lot of his moveset has to do with stopping the takedown and with discouraging wrestlers. And Michael Chandler is a powerful wrestler with a powerful right hand. Right, he has power in his hand, so he has the ability to knock people out. But his bread and butter is definitely the wrestling. And Dan Hooker has wonderful knees, right? Dan Hooker has some of the most lethal knees I've ever seen in the UFC. He knocked out Jim Miller with knees, and he also knocked out Ross Pearson with knees. And then when it comes to submissions, he has a nasty guillotine, so Chandler can't just put his head anywhere. He needs to definitely pay attention to how he's taking Dan Hooker down. And also, we haven't really seen people able to hold Dan Hooker on the ground. So in a lot of ways, this is a very hard matchup for Michael Chandler. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. Me personally, I'm going to go with Dan Hooker for this fight because I think that he has so much tools and so much weapons that make it dangerous for Chandler to do what Chandler likes to do. I'm definitely not writing Chandler off. He has a good chance to win this fight if he is able to impose his will and to hold Dan Hooker down, or if he's able to land that big right hand, then he definitely has a chance. But I'm going to go with Hooker in this fight, and I'm going to go by a second round knockout. Okay, so finally, we're going to talk about the main event. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. What do I think about Conor McGregor? He's undoubtedly one of the best strikers in the UFC. He's undoubtedly one of the most cerebral fighters in the UFC, one of the most precise strikers in the UFC, one of the most entertaining fighters by far, and he is amazing under pressure. When they have these big moments and these big fights and all the media obligations and all the pressure that and hype that comes with a Conor McGregor fight, he always seems to just thrive under these settings, and it's always amazing to watch. And even Conor himself said that when it comes to the fight game, the entire fight game, media, fighting, talking, business, all that kind of stuff, nobody really does it like him, and that's true. And on the flip side, what do I think about Dustin, right? Dustin Poirier is one of the most respected fighters in the UFC, and rightfully so. He's a genuine person inside and outside of the cage. And with Poirier, what you see is what you get. He's a gritty fighter. He never backs down, and he's always willing to go out on his shield. And I actually found myself several times in the past picking against Dustin, thinking that, you know what, he's not that good, he's not gonna win, and he always proves me wrong. I thought that Gaethje was gonna beat him, he stopped Gaethje. I thought that Eddie was gonna beat him, he beat Eddie. And Poirier just has a way of winning fights that I don't think he's gonna win. I thought Hooker was gonna beat him as well, and he outlasted Hooker. I thought Holloway was gonna beat him, he beat Holloway. I have underestimated Dustin several times, and he has proven me wrong. And yet again, here I am saying that he's going to lose this fight. And I feel pretty confident saying that because Conor is just a different beast, right? So my prediction would be Conor McGregor by first or second round knockout. And it's less about Dustin being bad or Dustin not being a good fighter, and more about Conor McGregor and where Conor McGregor excels, right? Conor McGregor excels in striking, he excels at countering. He excels when fighters try to pressure him, and he intercepts them with that precise left hand, and he knocks people out, he knocks them off balance. If you think back to the Eddie Alvarez fight, every single time Alvarez tried to come forward on McGregor, he was ready. He just slip a punch and then respond with 3 or 4 punches right on his chin. Like that, the precision is insane with McGregor. So if you look at the two of them, it's pretty clear who the better striker is. That's no shade at Poirier, because Poirier is a good striker in his own right? That win over Max Holloway is still impressive to this day. He's a volume striker with power in his hands. Not the same level of power that Conor has, but he definitely has good power in his hands. But Conor McGregor, striking wise, is up there in the elite of the UFC. So when you think of strikers like Israel Adesanya, Anderson Silva, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Valentina Shevchenko, all these are elite strikers, and Conor is right up there with them. I cannot say the same for Dustin. I mean, when have we ever seen someone outstrike Conor McGregor? I'll wait. We've never seen it. The answer is never. Now, I'm sure some people out there probably saying, oh, but we saw Floyd beat him, but obviously that's boxing, that's a completely different sport, and that's Floyd Mayweather. If we put Floyd in the octagon with Conor, would you be saying that he would outstrike Conor? I'm pretty sure the answer is no, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Some people might even say that Nate Diaz outstruck him in the first fight, which turned him into a panic wrestler, as we like to say. But if you watch that first fight, Conor lost that fight, and he lost the fight fair and square, but he lost that fight due to cardio issues. He got tired and he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. So that's why he lost that fight. But Conor has never been outstruck in a fight, and I don't think Poirier is going to be the one to do it. I don't think anybody in this division actually has better striking than Conor. and that's just how good Conor is. And then there's the whole idea of motivated Conor McGregor. That's just a different beast altogether. I think I'll make a separate video just discussing a little bit the mindset of McGregor, the mindset of Poirier, and how you've been seeing them in the embedded, in the press conferences, at the weigh-ins. So I'll talk about that a little bit in a separate video. Thank you very much for watching my video. Thank you for listening to me. If you enjoyed the content, please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me what you thought, and tell me what you think, who you think is going to win, and all of the above. See y'all in the next one.